Hi, my name is Mariel Jerusalem, reporter from Group 8. So now we're in Chapter 5, the third year at school. We will be discussing about listening comprehension, teaching skills and strategies at the meaning level. The emphasis in this third year shifts from instruction at the word level to instruction at the meaning level. The aim now is to extend listening comprehension skills and strategies during shared reading and to teach reading comprehension skills and strategies during guided reading. However, as may be anticipated, word level strategies are not neglected but are now more appropriately situated within the reading comprehension program. So, by the third year of school, most students, if not all, will have reached the full alphabetic phase of reading. Thus, kinahanglan, phonemically aware na sila o naa na sila idea about major grapheme-phoneme correspondences so that they can decode unfamiliar words and add them to the familiar ones. It also aims to move them from accurate but slow decoding to fluent and seamless word recognition. So the focus is on comprehending the material being read. Children will need to read parang ilang vocabularies, mag-grow, right? And they will need to use prediction strategies. Yes, diri magamit og prediction strategies to confirm the accuracy of words that they have decoded. As pointed out here by Presley, good comprehension is not just word level processing. It involves abstracting the big ideas in a text. So he goes into saying dili kay tungod ang bata makabasa na or while gabasa makadiscover na siya iya about comprehension processes necessary to understand the big ideas. No. Kay kung pasagdaan ra na nimo ang bata nga magbasa-basa dira, there is a tendency nga iguro na siya gabasa dira. Basa lang good, as in like mahurot na lang isa ka page, wala jud na niya na comprehend ang iyang gibasa. That is why kinahanglan diri nga diri nga chapter tudloan nato ang bata og mga skills and strategies on how to comprehend the text. Literary text of the narrative type. Most of the elements of the listening comprehension program, the third year of school, are simply an extension, as what I have said earlier, of the ones discussed in the second school year and will already be familiar. Again, this program is not appropriate for students who are still struggling with word level skill, not until they reach the full alphabetic phase of reading. So, starting with the literary texts of the narrative type, these 6 components should be included in the listening comprehension program. So, facilitating comprehension, teaching comprehension, assessing comprehension, extending comprehension, features of written text, and joint constructing of text. The first one is facilitating comprehension before the story is read. So, from the word facilitate, it consists of introducing the text, activating prior knowledge with its attendant caveats, effectively developing vocabulary knowledge, and providing the motivation for text reading through students' predictions about specific aspects of text structure. So the teacher here will introduce the text to the students and then maghatag og motivation through students' prediction para maganahan sila mo basa. And also a word about vocabulary development and providing a purpose for reading is relevant here, as both these strategies are treated in more depth than in the first two school years. With respect to the vocabulary development, the objective is, as always, to go beyond mere definitions and to integrate new words with other knowledge. While this has been advocated before, vocabulary development will be more formally addressed by the use of Nagi's semantic webbing technique. Semantic webbing is actually a method that students can use to organize information from a reading passage or other source as part of the pre-writing process. Anyways, i-discuss ni siya later sa extending comprehension part. In regard to the purpose for listening, there will be variability depending on the type of text that is being read, as the purpose for listening is bound inextricably to text structure. For example, with a literary text of the narrative type, the purpose for listening will focus on specific elements of story structure, such as characters, problem resolution, etc., that is being targeted for discussion. Next is teaching comprehension while the story is read. During the teaching comprehension component carried out while the text is being read, the focus will be on teaching inferential comprehension strategies, visual imagery strategies, text structure, and metacognitive strategies. Inferential comprehension strategies. When we say inferential, meaning to conclude or to reason information from the story. Inferential comprehension, it is the ability to process written information and understand the underlying meaning of the text. This information is then used to infer or determine deeper meaning that is not explicitly stated. So, inferential comprehension, it requires readers to combine ideas, draw conclusions, and interpret and evaluate information. So, pagtudluan nimo ang bata nga to make inferences as they are reading, teachers should point out that occasionally the information is text-based. For example, in the first sentence, the two girls and their mother were sitting on the sand with the reader. So with the reader making the inference, ang estudyante maghimo sila inference na two girls were sisters. So more often, however, inference making is a result of an interaction between students' knowledge base and the text information. For example, in the sentence number 2, the boy was making a sand castle. So, ang estudyante diri, i-activate nila ang ilahang own knowledge ani nga familiar situation in order to flesh out a scene that has only been implied by the author, such as realizing in what season of the year the action is taking place, or unsa ang gisuot no, or what clothes the boy would likely be wearing. The complexity of examples that the gipili sa teacher para ma-develop ang inferential skill is magdepende na po siya sa complexity of the passages that children are reading, and with the different elements of text structure that are being highlighted as students progress through the third year. while teaching students to make inferences by using examples, first in isolation, then from actual text reading. Teachers could show children how to combine their background knowledge, so students could also be asked additional related questions about each example discussed na, 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 in order to develop their critical thinking skills. Next is visual imagery strategies. Another strategy that has been found to be useful with students at risk of comprehension difficulties is the ability to generate a visual image from a text that is being read. It has been suggested that teaching children to construct mental images as they read enhances their ability to generate inferences, make predictions, and remember what has been read. Indeed, poor comprehenders may derive particular benefit from imagery training because it enables or forces them to integrate information contained in a text in a way that they would not normally do. So students here, they will visualize scenery, characters, and action, and describe nila ang scenes to themselves as they read each sentence in a passage. Importante kayo ni siya nga strategy kay para katong mga poor comprehenders is matagan sila og alternative by using an additional but non-phonological strategy. Visual imagery training can commence using a stimulus picture. For example, a farmyard. So teachers can suggest that okay pupils, I want you to look at carefully at the picture and observe because later on I will be asking you questions or I will be asking you to describe its contents once it has been removed. So something like that. Mayon teacher na. So if this proves difficult at first, teachers can model the activity for their students. Several children can then be asked para mag-describe, mga tanong din sa mga estudyante, pangutan ng ubang students nga describe something about the picture that they have painted in their mind. Ignon dayon sa teacher nga ang mga estudyante nga mas dali nila ma-remember ang naa sa picture kung mag-paint silang picture silang mind, mag-imagine sila so that they can clearly understand the reason for employing this particular process. Drawing is another introductory procedure for modeling visual imagery techniques. For instance, teachers could draw a picture that represents the sentence. The girl stood on a chair to get the biscuit jar from the shelf. So, dere, na, teacher no, using a talk aloud procedure, mag-drawing na din ang maestra. So, mag-drawing ang maestra o girl standing on a chair. Moingon din ng mga estudyante nga, I can see a girl. She is standing on a chair. Her arm is stretched. So, sa pagkabot niya sa biscuit. So, and continue in this manner until the picture has been completed. So, after the teacher has talked her students through the drawing, wala din ang maestra nga okay class, kani akong illustration or kani akong gidrawing, nagrepresent ni siya sa picture nga naa sa akong mind while nagbasa ko sa sentence. So the teacher could also inform the students that each picture, either drawn or painted in the mind, will vary from individual to individual. So, katong gihimo sa teacher is, mo to siya ang gitawag nga modeling. So, teachers then can explain that A visual image makes it easier to answer both literal and inferential questions about the sentence. For example, literal question: who is getting the biscuits? Answer is in the sentence and readily clarified by the drawing. Katong the girl. If, however, they were to ask inferential question: is the shelf high up on the wall or low down? The answer is not directly located in the text. Di ba wala man gi-state sa sentence? So therefore, the students will need to use their own knowledge of the situation and the information from the sentence to arrive at an answer. Once again, the picture facilitates the answer. Mm, Visual imagery instruction proceeds from very simple. Okay. Simple images modeled by the teacher to the self-generation of images by students. As teachers read stories to the class, they could encourage children to practice visualization strategies by reinforcing its facilitating effect. In addition, before story reading, sometimes the author's illustrations could be shown up front if they complement the text as a model for students, and sometimes they could be withheld until students have generated their own images. Next, the last text structure and metacognition strategies. Students must become familiar with the structure of a text, as difficulties with text structure have also been identified as characteristic of poor comprehenders. So when we say text structure, how the information within a written text is organized. Yun sa pag-organize, and metacognition is knowing individual's learning style or thinking about one's thinking. So, apart from direct instruction in learning how to go beyond the printed word and to use visual imagery strategies, text structure and metacognition strategies is also very important to teach to the children. While touched on the previous section, text structure is more fully explored in this third year of school when the following elements of a story are specifically targeted, such as characters, including their appearance, feelings, and development; setting, including time and place; story problem, a series of actions presented in episodes; internal reactions of the characters; attempts to resolve the problem; and the last, resolution of the problem. It is therefore important for students to have knowledge of story grammars in literary texts, which include realistic fiction, myths, fables, fairy stories, folk tales, and scientific or historic fiction. So if nana sila ang knowledge, matabangan na nimo ang estudyante na magkaroon ng kahulugan ang kanilang narinig or nabasa, give meaning. So by providing them with a schema which increases their comprehension and memory for the story. So nadiri a suggested approach to teaching story structure for a literary text is to introduce in some detail each of the elements listed above. Katong gipaingon, katong character setting, etc. Story structure for literary text is to introduce in some details when facilitating listening comprehension so that children can focus more easily on a specific one in turn during the interactive text reading. So during the teaching comprehension component, as the story is being read, the teacher could ask both literal and inferential questions that pertain specifically to the story element that is being currently targeted, as well as emphasize the need for students to implement cognitive strategies to facilitate text comprehension. Then, during the comprehension assessment component, when a story map is jointly constructed and discussed by the teacher and students, the specific story element under discussion could readily be considered in more depth and targeted for grammatical analysis. Finally, during comprehension extension, when teacher and students are involved in the joint construction of a text, the particular story element which has been featured can be highlighted in the writing process using the relevant grammatical concepts introduced in the assessment of comprehension component. Thus, while inferential visual imagery and metacognitive strategies are typically activated as the text is being read to the children, being read, I'm confused. I think being read, whatever. I'll Google it later. Text structure reinforcement can take place during every component of the listening comprehension program. So before we proceed, again, the first two components of listening comprehension program are facilitating comprehension, ang pag-introduce sa text, then teaching comprehension, tudloan sila pag-comprehend, pinaagi sa inferential strategies, pag-infer, conclude sa usa ka text, and then visual imagery, mental images, para mas madali ang pag-generate og inferences ug mas dali mahinumduman ang gibasa. And finally, structure of the text and metacognition, students' learning styles. So, that's all, I think. Thank you. And for the continuation, we have Miss Dumrang and Miss Manlangit, I think. And it will be posted later. Bye. Thank you.